want to just speak about one of the amendments that's next up. Senator Sanders' amendments would cut defense spending by 10%. And this is something I happen to be very close with Senator Sanders, and we have areas where we disagree with each other. And this is one of those areas. I looked at this and I thought he has an amendment that would cut defense spending by 10%. And first of all, this amendment would break the bipartisan budget agreement of 2019 that we passed. Congress passed this agreement last summer with a bipartisan support, and the president signed it into law. The fiscal 21 NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, that's the bill that we're working on right now as we speak. It fulfills this agreement. It provides a total of $740.5 billion for our national defense. And I would have preferred to see a higher number at that time, but it's now the law of the land. So even though it is lower than ideal, having budgetary certainty is critical. It's what our military leaders ask for every time they come before the committee that I chair and before the Senator Shelby's committee. They need on-time, predictable, and stable funding to do their job, and their jobs are only getting harder right now. Our adversaries are investing in their militaries and building new and advanced weapon systems and acting more aggressively than we've ever seen before in any of our adversaries. The National Defense Strategy describes, and this is a document, by the way, we've adhered to. This was put together by 6 Republicans and 6 Democrats. And it was one of these things where it was bipartisan. Everyone agreed. The people were experts that put this together, and we've followed it to the letter ever since that time. And we have the National Defense Strategy Commission report. That's this, a bipartisan document written by 6 Democrats, 6 Republicans. And they tell us what we need to increase our defense budget each year. And so we already know we need to be increasing our budget just to stay competitive. We've already agreed to this total. Now, one of the criticisms I hear from our defense budget is that we pay much more than other countries. Well, I've already explained. We're the ones who have to pay to take care of our people, our troops, their families, their kids. So here's the problem with that argument. Other countries don't have to do that. So beyond the troops, we also take care of the families and all that while others don't do it. But this is significant. China and Russia are rapidly modernizing their militaries. When I say this publicly and I talk to groups, I don't have credibility. It doesn't sound like it's possible. And I don't say this critically of the Obama administration. The Obama administration, by his own admission, had other priorities. One of them wasn't the strong military. And so during the last 5 years, now I'm talking about this would have been 2010 to 2015. During those last 5 years, using the president's budget, he decreased the amount of money for our military by 25%. In 5 years, decreased it by 25%. At the same time, Russia increased theirs by 34%, and China increased theirs by 83%. Now stop and think about that. Our adversaries out there were building and getting ahead of us in different areas. It's important to note that the bill exempts military pay and the Defense Health Program, which means this amendment is actually the equivalent to a 14% cut. Now I'm talking about cuts in airplanes and in equipment and assets that were military assets. This means that the nuclear modernization and key research that help us stay competitive with Russia. So this is something that I really believe cannot be done. It means cuts to military construction, including schools for military kids, to programs that support military families, and to programs that support our troops' morale and welfare. So it's just plain wrong. Again, our military combat commanders tell me and the committee they need on time, predictable and stable funding to do their jobs. And this amendment would actually cut that by 14% in the areas that concern people. In the strongest possible terms, I urge a no vote on this amendment. And all this is going to happen while we continue to face the burden that pandemic has placed on our military. Our military is a key part of the whole of government response to the virus. Our competitors haven't given us a free pass while this is all happening. In fact, we've seen China and Russia take advantage of this situation, and they've been acting more aggressively. At the same time, the Department of Defense is working to protect our troops and the civilian workforce from the virus, and this needs to continue to be a top priority. Everyone understands that. In fact, rather than cutting the defense budget, we actually need to support the military COVID response with additional funding. Take this one example. Defense industrial companies have done a great job to ensure that their suppliers, primarily thousands of small businesses, stay open and keep employees paid. In the CARES Act, we gave the DOD the authority and the tools to reimburse these companies to keep the defense workforce strong, but the DOD needs the money to use these tools. Now, if we don't help these companies, defense weapons programs and maintenance will suffer more costly overruns, and the defense industry will lose experienced, trained workers, meaning scheduled delays are more likely. And Mr. President, these are primarily the small companies. These are not the giants that are out there. And so that would be, it's a good investment for our national defense and a good investment for the American taxpayer. Now is simply not the time to be cutting our defense budget and when we should be acting. I know the author of the bill that would cut defense spending by 10% is very sincere and really believes in his bill. It's not the time to do it, and I hope that people understand that we are now in a position, we actually have different resources that are in Russia and China that are better than ours. Hypersonic weapons is a good example. Hypersonic weapons is kind of the state of the art, both offense and defense. And they're ahead of us. They're ahead of us right now. So I think with this budget we're going to be passing, we're going to make broad steps to recapture those areas where we have previously been the leaders and now are not the leaders any longer. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.